We are Steve and Jill.
Together, we've been buying and reselling land since the 90s.
Our data-centric approach leaves our buyers asking, how can you sell it so cheap?
Here on the Land Academy Show,
We answer that and more. Steve and Jill here.
Hi.
Welcome to the Land Academy Show, entertaining land investment talk. I'm Stephen Jack Butella.
And I'm Jill DeWitt, broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun.
Today, Jill and I talk about the role of your telephone in the land business. Well, really, Jill's going to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it's going to go.
Before we get into it, let's take a question posted by one of our members on the landinvestors.com online community. It's free. And don't forget to subscribe on the Land Academy YouTube channel. Comment on the shows you like.
Jessica wrote, do you have a business line of credit? If so, where, and are you pleased with the service? Well, this is interesting. Was this in Discord?
Yeah, it was a very popular topic, heavily responded to by other members.
Does anyone?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people.
Oh.
And different types of line of credit. So there's lines of credit. There's mortgage, house, regular mortgage, second mortgages, and all kinds of stuff. And everybody had a lot of positive stuff to say, which is why I brought it up here.
We don't.
This is why I brought this up, because Jill and I don't believe in debt.
Yeah.
Whenever we need to get something done, which is every single day, we use equity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, do I have a business line of credit? No. Could we go get a multi-million-dollar line of credit against
anything?
Probably just our credit scores.
Right.
It'd be tertiary debt, just like unsecured debt, like a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
We choose not to do that for a lot of reasons, mostly because both of us collectively and individually have been burned extending too much credit, whether it's asset-based or not, and having things go south and then having to mop that up. And this is in the way distant past for both of us.
Let me know when I can share.
So what I think you need to do, it's cheap as hell right now. You can get, a line of credit for just 1 or 2%. So if you're crazy confident in what's going to happen in your career, that might be a good idea. It's personal preference, but I vote no.
Here's my personal preference. We never have done this. So back in the day when we were, getting this going again, like I had acquisition funds, right? I had like a balance of our money that was set aside to buy land. And then when I was out of the acquisition funds, guess what I had to do? Hurry up and sell something so I could have the money to reinvest in something else. It just kept going and it would build up. It was great. So that's my first choice. Like you just said, I'm just not a fan of this at all.
Me too.
If you have 10 grand, then you buy stuff up to 10 grand and you need to hurry up and sell it. If you do it right, in 30 days, you have 20 grand. And in 30 more days, you have 40 grand. You hurry up and move this money through. Now, if you need something more than that, or you don't even have 10 grand, then I would use a partner. Bring in a partner where you're doing the deal together. You're not borrowing the money. It's like you're partnering on the deal. And if it all goes sideways, that person gets the deal. You don't owe them anything. You're just like, well, shoot,
That's equity.
I don't get part of this. It's
also way more expensive.
Yeah.
So if you get 5 people, I'm sorry, are you done?
No. Sheesh, you're on fire today. So with the partner, but yeah, to go, you are giving up equity. That's the whole thing. And then when the deal closes, you get half, you work it all out, or whatever percentage you guys work out. It doesn't matter. So that's just, I feel you sleep so well at night, knowing that if it all goes sideways, or you bought something wrong, you paid too much money, I don't know. When it goes back to the person who owns it, no one gets penalized. You learn from it and you move on. Versus I borrowed it from a bank. They're going to be bugging me. It takes a while to sell. Now they're still bugging me. I'm having to come up with more money to pay this while the stuff sells. I just don't like it.
When I ask myself how I'm going to finance something, I don't care if it's a car or an office building or, 600 acres of agricultural property that's going to be a subdivision. The first thing I ask myself is, let's run the worst case scenario here and how you're going to get out of it.
Right.
And so if you're really happy with how you're going to get out of it, and I'll tell you, getting out of a line of credit is a mess.
Yeah.
It usually involves bankruptcy. And so the days of setting up an LLC, getting a huge line of credit, and having no personal recourse are gone, except with certain very specific asset types. Strangely enough, mobile home parks are one of those asset types. So if you're not familiar with these terms and you're listening to this, I really would go back and replay this and research what these terms are before you start signing lines of credit and doing all that stuff. You put 5 people in a room, which we've done at live events, and ask them about this topic. How do you get a deal done? How do you finance it if you don't have all the money? Because you should never not do a deal.
That's true.
Never, ever, ever
Pass on
not
a
do a
deal.
deal because you don't have the money.
Right.
You have like 9 or 10 options. Line of credit's one of them. That's not anything we would ever choose. We created Land Academy for this reason, to create business partners. Some of them are financial money partners. Some of them are operations people like us. And sometimes we reverse the roles. So we didn't have to go and do this.
Mm-hmm. Thank
So
you.
I can't say enough bad stuff about debt.
Thanks.
Today's topic, the role of your telephone in your land business. This is why you're listening.
So I have 3 points to make about your phone. I think most of you know by now, you're going to have to talk to people on the phone. You tried it. First, would you please share your experience of how that went and not having a phone number?
Yeah, so very quickly, I started in my career buying and selling on other people's behalf, long-term care healthcare facilities, nursing homes, and assisted living buildings back in the day before there was email. And it was one of the most complicated real estate deals there ever was. You got all kinds of federal approval and state approval, and it takes a year. It took a year back then to get a deal done, and a lot of them fell through because it's just too much time. So in the back of my head, I said, I got to figure out how to do a really simple, fast real estate deal. And so what I did was remove all the people, remove all other real estate agents, so now that you're sitting philosophically or theoretically sitting across the table from an owner, you're the buyer, there's a seller, you sign some stuff, everybody exchanged some money, and the deal's over. Gets recorded at the county and it's over. And so we did. I traveled down that path and ultimately landed in land as that vehicle. And so it's the simplest transaction you can do. So from there,
Tried to simplify it even more.
From there, I developed this online auction scenario where we would buy property from somebody. We would have a single conversation with the seller, turn it over to an escrow agent. The escrow agent would close the deal. The money would exchange hands, and then we would own the property, post it online on several different auction venues at the time. It would be auctioned off, and the deal would close. People would pay online just like they were buying an ashtray.
And there was no talking. There was no phone
We never
number.
had a phone number.
These buyers could never ask any questions. What you see is it. If you're not in, that was it. Did you even have Did you email them back and forth?
There was email.
No, okay, there was email back then, but there's no phone number.
There was contact.
Right.
And that was the deal. And it worked fantastically well for a decade. Like millions and millions of dollars we made. And
Do you think you could have made more though?
Oh my gosh.
That's my
We
point.
would have times
Well, let
10.
me back up. You're painting a beautiful picture, which I understand.
It's not possible to do this anymore.
Okay. Well, I even think that I would argue that you could have done better even.
I think we would have made 10 times more
Thank you.
if Joe was involved
instead of
the partners that I had at that time, and where she was engaging these sellers the way she does now,
Right.
and engaging the buyers.
Right. So thank you for that story. I wanted you to share, really the point was it would have been better if we had a phone number. There's just so many things you're missing by not talking to people. Let me just give you a couple of examples here. Like I have 3 points. One is every time the phone rings, that's an opportunity. It could be a seller. It could be a buyer. You never know who's on the other end of the phone. It could be the neighbor who saw your sign in the ground, who wants to buy it. I mean, dream it up. It could be, you sent something to record and we put our phone number on everything now. Even when we send in deeds to recording, I want to know if there's a mistake, and because they'll call you back and give you a nice opportunity to fix it and not have to go through the whole process. I'm going to mail it back to you with the form letter. You got to redo everything, mail it all in, when all I need is an extra check for 25 cents, something silly like that. So it's just so much you can capture on the phone. Number 2, it is the very best way you can forge a relationship with a broker, with a seller, with a buyer, having that phone time, and I don't mean a half-hour phone time. You can do it in 5 minutes or less, have a nice relationship. I have a beautiful example of, I sent out some neighbor letters for a property because we have legal, it's physical access, but potential buyers are saying they really want legal access. I'm not going to go do it, but you know what? I'll make sure that it's possible. I can send out a couple neighbor letters and talk to the neighbors and get them all on board. And then I can say, here's the deal. Bob and Mark, I've all agreed. It's going to be fine if you want it, and here's their numbers and we've all talked. That's all it is, right? But also in the conversation, when I sent out neighbor letters, I also put in there, hey, by the way, if you want to buy it, let me know. Well, sure enough, first there's 3 neighbors. First one emailed me back right away and said, sure, no problem. Second one called me. And so I called him back. I was doing something, or I would have answered the phone. But anyway, I promptly called him back, as you should. And we had a quick conversation. It was so funny. In the conversation, he went from being, I'm not going to give you access. I don't want anybody doing this. And I said, look. So I had a nice conversation. I said, look, I'm not here to make your life difficult. It's going to happen anyway. You earlier mentioned that you maybe would be interested in the property. Let's talk about that. And so we're both, I'm going to get access and or maybe sell it to him at this point. We both have stuff to, I said, I'll think about this. I'll think about this price. You think about this proposal I just gave you. We're going to talk in 2 days. He's like, great. And I couldn't have done that if I didn't talk to him on the phone.
This makes me more attracted to you.
Oh, thank you. I really said, Josh.
She just makes it happen.
I said, Josh,
She gets on the phone and makes stuff happen.
And I said, Josh, look, you and I both know, in this state, as in most states, you can't withhold access. So it's going to kind of happen anyway. And the road's there. So, and I even said, look, here, I'd rather just give you $1,000 because it's going to cost like $2,000 to get it done legally. And I said, I'd rather just give you $1,000 and you say, okay. And then I have to go that step. He's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Because I'm going to spend $2,000 and you get nothing and I'm still going to get the access. He's like, yeah, you're right.
And then he's in the loop too.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
put it 4 more feet over here, please.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Exactly. No big deal. So, and then my third point is being on the phone, and why I carry it around is it's the quickest solution to make sure you're on the same page. I am 100% sure every one of us has had situations where there's email confusion. You're like, that's not what I meant. Or what do they mean? There's just some confusion in the wording because you can't hear it in an email. Things can be confused and taken out of context. So instead of firing back that email, accusing somebody of something or whatever it is, pick up the darn phone and get on the same page. And it's usually better than you think it is.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I was just going to say that. The thing is, if they like you and Jill's an expert at this, then they're going to work with you.
You know what?
It might not happen immediately, but go ahead.
I like your comment because let's take it the other way, especially if they don't like me. If they like this guy, you know what? This guy didn't like me. You know why? He knows the guy that I bought the property from. He knows what I spent. Apparently they talked. Not kidding. He knows what I spent. So he came in hot, not liking me. But at the end of the conversation, he did like me.
Of course.
And now we're going to work this out. So I like it too. If someone doesn't like you and you're getting that vibe, that's all the more reason to get on the phone with them and calm everything down and say, like I said, I'm not trying to make your life difficult. I'm not trying to be hard. I'm just trying to, this is my business. How can let's get this together. I don't want I'm not going to sell to some jerk too. And then what's interesting about this story is I had a seller. We were going through escrow and the seller, and I told this guy, I totally was truthful. I said, and you may have met this guy traversing back and forth on the property. I said, this guy was a jerk. He wanted to change the purchase price at the last minute and I wouldn't have it. That's not how I roll. What I promise, I follow through on. I said, so that guy, I won't sell to him I'll make sure you don't get a neighbor like that. So by sharing that too, the guy loves me. He's like, well, thank you. So I'd rather sell to you It's let's just expand your property, have 10 more acres kind of thing. So anyway, those are just 3 examples and points I want to make about the role of the telephone in your land business. It's very important. Please have your phone number out there. You'll know, sure, you're like, oh gosh, but I get calls all day from all kinds of tire kickers. Yeah, you do. So what? Get used to getting them off the phone and identifying that they're tire kickers and sending them on their way, because for every 4 tire kickers, you probably get 1 really good, solid buyer. And I don't want you to miss those phone calls.
Being on the phone is unavoidable in this business. This is truth time. I successfully avoided it, but it came to a screeching halt in large part because I refused to have an open mind about it. And Jill and I cranked it up again times 10. So if you're like me and you just can't stand the phone part of this, you're going to have to find somebody to work. Either you have to suck it up and do it for a while until you're successful enough to find somebody that'll do it for you, or it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm. How often do I come to you and say, I know why this person's selling to us. I know why this person's buying from us.
Yep.
Because we answer the phone. Sometimes that's going to make or break your business.
Yep.
How many times do you call the bank and you're frustrated, right? Because you can't get someone. It's good. There's a lot of shift in a not good way for the planet to automate this stuff, and even other land sellers. So you know what, you guys, you're missing the boat if you're not. Don't have somebody in place. If it's not you, get somebody in place.
You have to realign your thought process on this, because what and Jill said it earlier. You need to look at when the phone rings an opportunity, not a pain in the butt. Mm-hmm. And especially this day and age of cell phones and all the spam calls you get, and just the terrible stuff that goes on just throughout a regular day.
Yeah,
half the calls that you get just in a regular day are spam calls trying to sell you something. Yeah. And so you got to get over it. You have to answer the phone, because 2 or 3 of those calls, if you send the right mailer out, are going to be massive profit opportunities for you.
Right. Happy you could join us today. 5 days a week, you can find us on the Land or House Academy Show.
Tomorrow, the episode on the House Academy Show is called
Due Diligence for Off-Grid SFRs. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Whoa, tomorrow's show 1700?
Yeah.
Holy moly. I got to pause on that for just a second.
1700 episodes.
And we didn't start, we started at episode 0, by the way, and then episode 1, 2, 3. So yes, we have been sitting next to each other doing these for 1700.
And we keep, you'd think you'd get better at it as we go, but I don't think that's what's happening.
No changes.
You are not alone in your real estate ambition.
That's funny. Remember, if you have not gone back, listener, and found those earlier episodes, it's comical. Like where I'm sitting at my desk in this little office. Remember that? And it's a different computer in front of me too. Like we've
been through a lot of changes.
Going on 7 years ago, where we're just kind of, you're asking me about my deals and we're just kind of gabbing. And some of those shows are like 45 minutes long. We're so darn funny. And I was this is the best part. I was never supposed to be his co-host. I was the fill-in person. And then I became the co-host. Because I was the only one that would show up consistently.
We would book people for the show and they wouldn't show up. And so here's Jill again.
Yep.
Then when I actually did book somebody, everybody would pipe in and say, why aren't you doing this with Jill? Is it over?
God, that was
we finally worked it out.
We did. That was good. Need to send out a few thousand offers to property owners like us? Check out offers and the number 2owners.com. So it's offers2owners.com. No setup fees, free mail merge, exceptional service, and now including just released for everyone, concierge data and pricing. It's awesome. Give Offers to Owners a call today. Thanks for tuning in. And if you're a Land Academy member, make sure you are communicating with us on Discord.
We are Steve and Jill. Information
and inspiration
to buy undervalued property.
We hope you find our content valuable and we appreciate your support. If you have not already, please check out our channel and hit the subscribe button.
And your comments and suggestions help us to create the content you're here for. Hitting the like button helps to support our channel's algorithm and gauge your interest for future shows.